Oh, no, it is just you, Todd. There, I fixed it for you. There, I don't know, just overnight the system decided to shut down all microphones. Welcome. This is Spilling Covfefe with Kevin Lee. There's nothing worth hearing, really. So we could just leave that off. I just went to pull up C-SPAN and got cpap.com. So let's try that again. If you're just joining us, hi. Hi, Todd. Good to see you. Hi, Marcy. Go back to sleep. Here we go. Here's Peter Navarro. I wanted to check this out. Let's pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. Crap. Okay. We'll pump up maybe a little bit loud. Let's see what Peter has to say. Congratulations, David. You're first.
So let me just talk a little bit, a little debrief on, I think, what happened over the last 4 days with the convention. And then I'll take a couple of your questions, which I hope are policy-oriented. So I think that this Republican National Convention was tremendously successful in drawing a very clear contrast between the Democrats and the Republicans. One of the things that I think you could look at just from the guest list of speakers is that President Donald J. Trump has successfully transformed the Republican Party not just into the party of the working class, but as a big tent that really...
It's the party of Trump. That's it. There's no platform. It's just we will support President Trump. That's it.
Welcomes all folks of any race, color.
By the way, if you have access to the HBO, in fact, it'll be on YouTube, this segment in question. John Oliver last week tonight took another look at The Wall. He took a look at it 4 years ago. And pretty much all the stuff that he said was going to happen 4 years ago, it's happening. So yeah, completely waste of taxpayer money. $15 billion so far on The Wall, and parts of it are falling down anyway. So
color or creed into it. I thought that the contrast between last week's Hollywood Walk of Stars and this week's...
I like that Sleepy Joe is incompetent, doesn't know where he is. Also, he's the destroyer of America. So... I mean, I'm quite frankly, I'm impressed. Is he like a Mr. Magoo type character? Has no idea what's going on, but just wipes out everything in its path? Do not let the Republicans hear that.
Really ordinary people showing that they are really extraordinary, I thought was wonderful. When we saw Hollywood versus Main Street, my favorite speaker of the 4 days, interestingly enough, would not probably come to some people's mind. In fact, I was watching some coverage, and some of the TV stations actually cut away when he spoke. But it was Clarence Henderson who spoke quite eloquently about his journey as an African American in this society through sit-ins and the like, and why he's a strong supporter of the president. With respect to, I think, the policy issues, I think we start with the virus itself, the virus that came from the Chinese Communist Party that they hid from the world for several months while that virus seeded and spread it across and basically effectively created a pandemic.
Seeded and
what
spread
you can
it.
expect from
I hate
this
when viruses
president
spread it.
is a four-pronged, four-vector attack to defeat the China virus, and we talked about it a lot over these last 4 days. But it really consists...
I don't get the Mrs. Brady. Is that a Brady Bunch thing? Or is that a Brady who got shot with Reagan? And I'm not sure what that reference... I'd never watched the Brady Bunch. I've watched one episode 3 times. Every time I turn it on, it's Peter and the volcano. I've got to believe that over the last almost 50 years of my life, having seen 3 episodes, that Peter builds a volcano on every single episode. Because it's impossible. The odds of me only watching that one episode 3 times could be a reference to Russia. Like, I know so much about that show because my sister would watch it constantly. I didn't like it because it was one of one of Kevin Lee's sister's shows.
This, importantly, of bringing home the domestic manufacturing of our personal protective equipment, the protective glasses.
I honestly was so out of it yesterday, I can't remember if I watched Henderson or not. I feel 36% better today. So
the goggles, things like that, the gloves. It also importantly means bringing.
This isn't about Peter Navarro, though. How are you guys? Anything going on in the world today, in your world? I have a request in with the... So I put in a FOIA request. David knows about this. I put a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act, called FOIL in New York. Which I actually kind of like that better because it's a word. So Freedom of Information Law in New York for Trump's voting records in New York City. And it took more than a month and finally got a response. And like, yes, you can have that. Come to our offices. It's on the 7th floor, somewhere on Broadway or 5th or wherever, and give us $1. Like, well, it's going to be difficult because I live on the other coast. And so they agreed they would give it to me electronically. But I still have to get them a money order. So I have to go into a 7-Eleven or a post office or someplace and buy a money order for $1, which is going to cost $1.89, and then send it to New York. I guess I might as well do it at the post office because then I can just put it in an envelope right there. Anyway, so, and then once I have that and can show evidence of voter fraud, that'll do it. That'll win the election, everybody.
Home are essential medicines. This is so critical, and it really this whole idea of bringing this on shore captures a key principle of President Trump, which is economic security is national security. When you bring those jobs home, you create good paying jobs at good wages, but you also protect the American people. The second vector of attack has to do with what has been a steady...
The reason I'm watching the Peter Navarro clipping right now is because word on the street is, I'm like, okay, that's a Gambino reference for those of you who aren't cool enough to have a teenage daughter. Apparently he gets into a little confrontation on one of the answers here, so it's always interesting.
And strong ramp up of America's testing.
Well, no, Robin, it's not a great move because I still haven't gone to a 7-Eleven or a USPS. It's been about a month now, David? I just haven't gone to, I don't go out for extra trips. If I had a reason to go to a post office and I remembered, then I would be like, oh yeah, but I can do everything online now. So rather than for the guy who's had 2 heart attacks before age 50 to go into a place where many, many human beings are spreading the virus every day in LA County, which has more cases than anyone. I don't know, maybe Arizona's overtaken us now. Anyway, you got a haircut? That is big news, Chris Wilson. I am so envious. So I just haven't gone in. Now, David, one of David's people who lives in New York and goes by the building on a regular basis, out for a bike ride, send them 2 first class stamps. I mean, that's more than $1. I lose money on that deal, David. One of David's employees, correct me if I'm wrong, David, volunteered to just go up there and give him $1, which was very nice of him. And I was like, I don't. So I don't know if it's genetic or if it's just how things are. I have my worst love language, where I stumble the most in my speech, is accepting gifts. I'm working on that. So if anyone wants to give me gifts, paypal.me/Kevin. Go to kevinleefather.com and you can subscribe to me there. It's on Patreon, and then help me do this sort of thing. But my grandfather had multiple heart attacks, and he would call a taxi. He'd, oh, Mabel, don't call 911. We'll get a taxi. The taxi driver would, oh, how you doing, Mr. Riley? Oh, just having a bit of a problem with the ticker. Okay, mister, I'm calling you an ambulance. I cannot get you to the hospital faster than they will get. So I have difficulty accepting help like that, even for $1, because it's worth more of his time. So I said, no, I'll take care of it, David, and I appreciate it. But David, again, thank Alex, whoever it was. I don't know. Maybe I'm not supposed to drop names. I have no idea. But anyway, the info's not going to be huge. Here's the thing, Robin. Even if I got evidence that he voted in 2 different states, they wouldn't care. They do not care. We have evidence of him bragging about sexual assault repeatedly. They don't care. Yeah, but Hillary's emails. She was talking about Lincoln. Yeah, she wants to no borders. Well, she was talking about an electrical grid that stretched across North and South America so the entire continent would be able to share, so there was power in one. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Oh, no. She just wants open borders. They don't care. Look at the speech last night. By the end of the year, we will have a safe and effective vaccine. I hope so. But nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. Joe Biden is the destroyer of America. Speaking of destroyers.
Capabilities, not just in terms of quantity, but also in terms of quality and reach. The latest thing that we've been able to do with a deal with Abbott
has volume, by the way. Is he? Can we hear him?
Is to start disseminating small point-of-care tests that give you rapid results, and this is going to be a tremendous help in our fight against the China virus. The third vector of attack on the virus is the rapid development of therapeutics. We've already gotten remdesivir out. Just recently, convalescent plasma has been added to the therapeutic mix. There's others in the pipeline that you'll see, like monoclonal antibodies.
Is there an orange candy? I didn't grow up in the States, so I don't know. Is there there's like an orange peanutty kind of mushy marshmallow candy? Isn't there, guys? This is one of the things I just don't know about this country.
I think people,
goddamn immigrants. Okay, so Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, not a real thing, right? That's just an imaginary thing that was created for Ghostbusters. But we all got it. He's a Stay Puft is there a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? I don't know. Is there really one? Circus Peanuts. That's what he is. He's the Circus Peanuts of Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Are Circus Peanuts orange? What did I just say?
People will feel in America a whole lot better once they're feel comfortable with the idea that even if they become infected with the virus, there's medicines there that can make them healthy quickly. And then the last thing, of course, is the vaccine development.
Yeah.
I've been involved in that going back to early February, shortly after the president announced the pull down of the China flights, which Joe Biden said was xenophobic, which he had to apologize for, but which saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Early February, we began working flights, which Joe Biden said was xenophobic, early February, shortly after the president announced the pull down of the China flights.
No flights were canceled by the president. None. He did not cancel any flights. That's completely bogus. Italy did that. Singapore did that. The president did not cancel one flight.
Which Joe Biden said was xenophobic,
Joe Biden did not say that. In fact, that was being announced while Joe Biden was on stage giving a speech. And he was referring to the overall policies, and not specifically that policy, but the fact that Trump kept calling it the China virus.
He had to apologize for, but which saved hundreds of thousands.
Never apologized. In fact, Joe Biden was calling for response to the virus far before this. I don't know if you've seen the tweet that's going around, but back in September of last year, he was talking about the Trump team shutting down the pandemic response team, etc. So, yeah. And then, of course, there's that op-ed, I think it was USA Today in January. You know what? I don't think fact-checking is worth it, David. I don't know that anyone should. Yeah, if it has to do with, like, Coca-Cola or Disney, people are like, I didn't know that. But when it comes to stuff that's cut and dry, like, oh, here is a date and a timestamp. Yeah, but still.
Of American lives. Early February, we began working quietly and closely with the Department of Health and Human Services on setting up what became a 5 or 6 company vaccine horse race.
Okay, Todd, there is no Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It's a fictional character created for Ghostbusters. You lying... I don't know if you really said that or not, but... Oh, Dr. Howard. Good. I'm glad you're here. Hold on just a second, because Dr. Howard was missing yesterday. Dr. Howard, are you okay? I can't, hold on. I got to scroll back in the chat here just to check on Dr. Howard. I don't know if she's still in the room or not. I almost just put Marcy in timeout. Where are you, Dr. Howard? You're having heart issues. I'm headed to a heart catheterization. I'll keep you all. Oh my God. Oh God. Okay. Thoughts and prayers. Dr. Howard, be good. We'll all be thinking of you. Don't apologize for missing me last night. I wasn't even here. So, I mean, I was. My body was here. I'm not sure I was all here. Don't die. There you go. Let us know how it goes. Don't rush yourself. Take it easy. Yeah, be good, Dr. Howard. Yeah, just I have no advice for someone who's undergone a couple of heart procedures. Oh, if you die, I want to hear about it. And by that, I mean if you die on the table and they bring you back, they have some high-powered adrenaline that they'll shoot into you if your heart stops and then bring you back. And you'll be aware of what's happening. At least I was. I don't tell people what happened when I died anymore, because just no one, whatever people believe when they ask me that question, what was it like? You died? Yeah, heart stopped, everything. I've got video of it. It goes to 0, and then I was dead, and then they brought me back. Did you see a white light? Like, whatever people go into with the notion, something they have no possible way of ever experiencing if you haven't died. Whatever people believe going into that question, I give them my answer, and they don't accept it. That is how frightened we are. I don't know if it's inherent, or it's just the way. God, the last thing I need is a Dr. Howard ghost. So you're not dying. That's the end of it. That's what they believe, and I'll say, well, actually, this is what happened, and they'll say, oh yeah, but that's just for you. My experience might be different. Okay. All right. You go, girl.
But the most important thing we were doing, besides getting the pharmaceutical companies to develop these vaccines really rapidly, was also to stand up the mass manufacturing.
Okay, the pharmaceutical companies are not developing things rapidly because the president is making them. It's called capitalism. Whatever vaccine comes out that they can get $10, $20, $50, $130 for a crack, they will make a fortune. That's what, and plus, I'd like to believe that there are people in pharmaceuticals who actually like to help people. Look, we just saved the human race. How would you like to be that Dr. Pascal? Or Dr. Pasteur? Or Dr. Past Tense? Because they're all in them.
Capabilities at the same time, so that if we get a vaccine or one or more in December or January, we will have the capability to bring it to the American people. So
yeah, monkey stuff, Todd. Todd, you're close. We should get together for like a social distance barbecue or something.
That's our 4-vector line of attack to defeat the China virus. I think it contrasts from a policy point of view starkly and clearly with Joe Biden as vice president. I mean, Biden is trying to blame the president for the pandemic instead of China. We know why he's doing that. He's trying to tell the American people that somehow he would have done a better job or would do a better job. The only data point we have, and I think this is really an important one for all of the cable networks to report, not hide this as they have been doing, is the fact that during the
Okay, here, whenever Navarro says the fact that, we're going to see something that's not a fact coming. So here it comes.
H1N1 swine flu epidemic, the chief of staff of Vice President Joe Biden said in 2019 that they did everything wrong and that it was a miracle that it wasn't the greatest mass casualty event in U.S. history. Something like 60 million people got infected with the swine flu. If that had been more deadly, that would have been a tragic event.
Again, the fact that, hypothetical, the fact that if that had been more deadly, I mean, yeah, okay, but then there's reality. You know, the fact that you just mentioned?
That's what we know about how Joe Biden handles epidemics. Hang on, not finished. I'll answer questions after this.
Immediately pushback because what he's saying just isn't true.
So I think that's kind of the first area I want to talk about. The second area is the whole issue of jobs and rebuilding our economy. On January 15th, when the Chinese...
By the way, during the H1N1, Biden wanted much stricter restrictions. Is that the same word? He wanted social distancing back then. He was all in favor of it. Let's, I think I've got that. See what this is.
No, the federal government has done far more than if anybody else was president. I mean, if Sleepy Joe was president, he wouldn't even know what's going on. You know that. I mean, everybody knows that. I cannot imagine any president being able to do more than we've done.
I would tell...
So this is Biden back in 2009.
Members of...
By the way, Sleepy Joe, destroyer of America. Sleepy Joe doesn't know what's going on. Destroyer of America.
My family and I wouldn't go anywhere in confined places now. You're in a confined aircraft. When one person sneezes, it goes all the way through the aircraft. That's me. I would not be at this point, if they had another way of transportation, suggesting they ride the subway.
Biden, 2009. Hey, let's social distance, everybody. But, you know, I mean, the facts. If it had been a much more deadly disease, if many more people had died because of H1N1, yeah, didn't happen.
Chinese Communist Party leaders came to town to sign a trade deal. Unconscionably, they did not tell us that there was a deadly virus that would be creating a global pandemic. They knew that at the time.
Wait, when?
Unconscionably, on January 15th, when the Chinese Communist Party leaders came to town to sign a trade deal, unconscionably, they did not tell us that there was a deadly virus that would be creating a global pandemic.
Well, the World Health Organization was already talking about it on the 14th. You know that tweet that you shared that said that there's no evidence of human-to-human contact? That's from January 14th, the day before the delegation came to town. So, I mean, yeah, if you guys never use Twitter, it's kind of on you.
They knew that at the
Everybody was aware of this
time. Xi Jinping on January 6th at a high-level meeting of Communist Party officials told them, warned them, but he did not pick up the phone and call us. They shook our hand, they broke bread with us, and they signed that deal, and they didn't tell us, the American people. And while they were doing that, they were hoarding personal protective equipment,
which they then later shared with us, but yeah, hoarding it.
And they were sending Chinese nationals around the world.
Right, and we should have been hoarding that equipment as well. And by that I mean using the Defense Production Action to create, because we knew. It's a great email chain called Red Dawn. If you want to spend some time going down a rabbit hole, Red Dawn is the name of the email. And it's about the China virus coming over and what we needed to do. And the president failed on every single step along the way. We went through these scenarios last year. Hey, here's a pandemic, White House. Let's go through the playbook and you guys to do what you want to do. And then we'll tell you where you want. They did everything wrong. And then we just did it again. Red Dawn.
With that virus, to seed and spread the virus, well, they were locking down their own economy and transportation network. But my point is that...
And we have so many more dead than they do They locked down their economy and transportation network.
On January 15th, after 3 years, President Donald J. Trump, the greatest jobs president and trade negotiator,
neither of which is true,
in American history, had built the strongest and most resilient economy we've seen. We had historically low unemployment.
I don't know if it's that resilient. If it lost 1/3 of its value in a month.
Rates for blacks, Hispanics, Asians, those with disabilities, veterans. We had wages rising disproportionately for blue-collar factory workers, whereas they had stagnated during the Obama-Biden years. And it was a...
Yeah, I think, September, October, Stephanie, you might be right. Biden tweeted about the lack of preparation for the virus in October, if what you're saying is correct. It was September in my head, but September might have been when they did the actual run-through and screwed everything up. But yeah, I mean, he's not the only one. People have been calling this out for years. Obama called it out in 2014, 2015 after Ebola. Hey, we're going to get another virus coming in. This is Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro is an economics... He's a guy who knows some stuff about money. He's very anti-China. He's written a number of books about China in which he created a fictional character, but didn't tell anybody who's fictional, a racist character to help support his views that turned out not to be a real person. So again, these are nonfiction books that he's written. And in his nonfiction books, there's a professor or some... I'd have to look into it again. It's been a couple of years since this was discovered. But anyway, someone read the books and then looked up and said, hey, who is this guy? And it turns out, no, this was just a guy that Navarro created in his head to say racist things and then put into the nonfiction book. So that's Peter Navarro for you.
A pinnacle that we...
He also said that the virus was contained. Not 100% airtight, but contained back in March, April, whenever it was. So
we reached that we were going to go even further to higher commanding heights, and then the virus hit us. So what we have now...
Yeah, Marcy, Hawaii's doing just terrible this week, the last couple of weeks. I need you guys to knock it off. I want to come visit at some point. Not necessarily you, but, spam macadamia nuts.
Now for the American people on a policy platform...
I do miss Maurice.
...is a choice between the Biden platform and the Trump platform. What President Trump did to...
There literally is no Trump platform. There isn't one. They have no the first time in the history of Republican conventions, no platform. Yeah, we didn't get around to it. I'm sure that's what happened. Just no one said make a platform. And then for a couple of days they were like, "Oh no, we're just using the same platform as last time."
To build that economy up was 4 things: tax cuts to bring investment onshore, deregulation to eliminate the burden on businesses so they could be more globally competitive, strategic...
Guys, what was I just looking up? Somebody read my mind. What? Look at me. What was I just looking up? Because I've forgotten now.
Dominance of the energy sector. We became incredibly a net exporter of petroleum and first...
David, who's the other guy besides Navarro? They're the same person in my mind. They're not. Hey, Andy, get to work or something. There's Navarro, and then there's the other economics guy who warned about the pandemic. There were 2 of them back in January. Anyway.
First and foremost, the fair trade deals, renegotiating NAFTA, cracking down on China's...
There you go. Thank you, David. Tessamara Suzuki, Emeritus Professor of Japanese and Korean History at the Australian National University, discovered that a character named Ron Vara in Navarro's books is fictional. The name Ron Vara also appears to be an anagram of Navarro's name. Cudlow, thank you. Thank you, Marcy. Cudlow, the Cud.
Unfair
Thank you, Alex.
Trade practice. Renegotiating the...
In my head, they're the same person. And I've yet to see the 2 of them in a... Well, no, that's not true. And they're both the child of Wilbur Ross.
South Korean deal that Obama, Biden, and Clinton had done in the 3 previous years. So if you contrast that...
Clinton had zero involvement with anything like that because it's not a thing.
We know that works. We know that in 3 years that led to the most resilient and best economy we've seen in a very long time. What the Biden platform is, very clearly, it's just the opposite of that. Well, we want to cut taxes. They got $4 trillion of tax hikes. We want to keep cutting regulations. They're going to put more regulations on our farmers, our ranchers, our fishermen, our loggers. With respect to the energy sector, I don't know.
Much.
I don't know how you can go around the country to places like Texas or the Dakotas or the fracking areas of Pennsylvania and Ohio and tell everybody, like Clinton did in the 2016 campaign in West Virginia, that, hey, we're putting you out of business. That's what Joe Biden is going to do. He's going to cap every oil well in this country, and we're going to import solar panels from China, and everybody, I guess, is going to be prosperous. I think that...
Yeah, the question from the reporter, has he said he wants to cap every oil well? He has not.
I think we're going to get to that with their platform, but...
We're gonna get to that. Well, they do have a platform, so I think this is just platform jealousy.
But let me keep going here. I'll answer your questions.
No, let me just keep spewing complete fiction. I think we'll get to that. The fact is, he might say at some point,
just make this. Look, we're
dinner. Andy, your time zone is way off. You got to talk to everybody in your country over there, see if they can fix that.
We can do this. So with respect to jobs, the last thing I want to talk about, I think that there's a sharp contrast, is on the question of law and order. And I think some of the speakers last night were quite articulate about this. There is a thin blue line.
Say the speakers were quite articulate about this.
Of law and order.
Yeah.
And I think some of the speakers last night were quite articulate about this. There is
They were quite articulate about this. Irony. I love it. Article 1110.
A thin blue line between peaceful protests, which we as Americans love. We love that. There's a thin blue line between peaceful protests and the kind of anarchy and looting that we are observing in primarily democratically controlled cities, whether it's Portland, Seattle, Chicago, New York. These are these images that the American people are seeing on TV as the Democratic Party seeks to defund the police. Really, I think, draw a clear contrast.
Biden has spoken out many times about not defunding the police. He actually wants to add money for police training, police safety, police well-being, psychological counseling, et cetera, et cetera.
Between the two parties. So, in summary, I think that's what we've...
What did he call the thin blue line at random? I was typing. Let's go back.
New York. These are these images that the American people are seeing on TV as the Democratic Party seeks to defund the police. Really, I think, draw a clear contrast between the two parties. So, in summary, I think that's what we've learned from 2 weeks of first the Democratic convention and then the Republican convention. And I think there's a very clear choice for the American people. All right, I'll take some questions here.
What can you tell us about the 115 million Abbott tests? Where will they be deployed? When can we expect to see them deployed?
Yeah, I don't...
By the way, that was 12 minutes of spewing nonsense before taking any questions. So let's see what happens.
I don't have the details on that, but it's going to be fairly rapid on that. No pun intended. We've been working for many
Might have been a question about rapid testing. I couldn't hear her.
months in getting both the capability so that we know that it actually works, which has been the Achilles heel of those point of care tests, and also the production capacity. And that's part of
that is an Achilles heel. When the test doesn't work, that is
how we've been using the Defense Production Act. A lot of the times when we need to get things to the American people, we have to make sure that the supply chain's intact. You got something?
Yeah. What's your role in criticizing Canada, Chargé for the United States Embassy up there, and the issue
Yeah. So I'll stand by that statement and leave it at that. We love our Canadian brothers and sisters. My statement stands as it is, and there it is.
Why? Why attack them? What purpose?
Yeah. Just read the statement.
Something about a statement about Canada, and the question, then the follow-up question is why make a statement like that? So, hold on, kids. Let's delve into this a little bit. Let's just look up Navarro in Canada. Stay with me, or don't. Start your day. Canada, blame Canada, blame Canada. Well, here's response from CBC News. That's out of Canada. General Rick Hiller calls, it could be Hillier, calls Trump. No, my monitor on this side is just a television, so it's not as clear as I would like it to be. So if you'd like to help me get a real monitor, go to kevinleefather.com. Become a patron. Okay. This is great. I'm going to pull this over. We'll take a look at this. Okay, so there's a backstory here. General Rick Hillier calls Trump advisor Peter Navarro an idiot for belittling Canada's role in Afghanistan. Oh, Jesus Christ, really? What did he say? My first reaction is, what an idiot. Navarro suggests Canada's decade-long mission, which cost the lives of 158 Canadian soldiers, was motivated more by a desire to curry favor with the U.S. than to support the global fight against terrorism. Wow. Just how every time you think that's it, that's the bottom of the barrel. CTV, that's Canadian television network, obtained audio recordings of Navarro's interview with Jim Sciutto, who was questioning the trade advisor about the Trump-Afghanistan often caustic approach to foreign relations when the subject of Canada's mission in Afghanistan came up. Were they doing us a favor, or were they brought into the idea they needed to do that as part of the global effort against terrorists? Navarro responds. I mean, if they were just doing us a favor, maybe their government should have been thrown out of office. I mean, every time that a Canadian shows up in a uniform, it's doing us a favor? How's that work? So he's just going to let that statement stand for itself. Hi, Ruth Ann. Wow. 158 Canadian soldiers dead, including 4 of whom were bombed by Americans. And the Canadians were just doing the U.S. a favor. And when asked about it, he's just going to let that statement stand for itself. Wonder what Ron Vara would say about that.
And I think the statement is very, very clear.
Yeah, I've read it, but I mean,
So then print it out when you report the story. What else you got? Read the statement.
Just no second thoughts about that whatsoever. Canada was just trying to curry favor by sending all those soldiers, 158 of whom never came home, to Afghanistan. Canada, who has been there for the United States every single time, the exception of Iraq. Because everybody else on the planet, except, Poland and Great Britain, were like, we don't know about this whole anthrax at the UN thing.
Okay, my statement is very, very clear. We love our Canadian brothers and sisters, and we honor their military. What else you got? Yes, ma'am.
By saying that the government was trying to curry favors over the last, 17 years now? 18 years? Has it been 19 years we've been in Afghanistan?
There are some reports of some positive tests for those who participated or were involved in some way with the events for the RNC in Charlotte.
Yeah, I don't know. It was during the last 2 days when I was kind of out of it, but on Netflix, apparently there's some show about the maple syrup wars in Canada, so I have to watch that. I can't remember. I hope I added it to my watch list because I don't remember exactly what it is, but it must be some kind of documentary or something on Netflix. If anybody knows what that is, let me know.
When you look at what happened last night in terms of 1,500 people, very few masks, no social distancing, you're just critical of Ron Klain saying they did everything wrong. The administration set this up, no social distancing, no masks, limited masks, very few, and not widespread testing. So should we not expect that there
Who are you with? Just
NBC.
Okay, so I gotta pump the volume up on this one, guys, so we can hear, because I kind of want to hear that question. So when he talks, it might blow your eardrums out. So just be wary of that. We're pumping the volume up. Pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. Lies. Okay, let's see. If
Like, we love our Canadian brothers and
with the events for the RNC in Charlotte. When you look at what happened last night in terms of 1,500
Yeah.
people, very few masks, no social distancing, you're just
Okay, so the question is about the audience last night with very few masks, no social distancing. Let me turn the volume back down. So I thought that's what she was talking about. And typically, whenever they say, "Who are you with? Who are you?" This is a reporter for MSNBC, by the way, if everything is tracking in my head.
critical of Ron Klain, saying they did everything wrong. The administration set this up with no social distancing, no masks, with limited masks, very
yeah,
few,
yeah.
and not widespread testing.
No masks, limited masks. Wilbur Ross, who's 82, was in the audience last night. No mask. Not that that would protect him anyway, but nobody around him was wearing masks either. I think Alex Azar, I think I saw a mask on him.
So, should we not expect that there
Who
Dirty Money, that's what it is. Thank you, Ruth Ann. There's 2 episodes of Dirty Money that everyone should watch. One of them is on Jared Kushner, and another on Donald Trump as well. So check out Dirty Money on Netflix. It's a good documentary series.
are you with? Just
NBC?
okay, yeah. So I thought it was interesting this morning. What I do, my protocol every morning,
Is that Kelly O'Donnell? Thank you, Marcy.
just so I kind of figure out what the talking points are for everybody, is to watch like the first 15, 20 minutes of 6 different shows. You know, Squawk Box, Maria for the financial markets. It's Morning Joe, it's New Day, Fox and Friends, and a couple others.
He should do Spilling Covfefe.
And I thought it was really interesting that we got solid convention coverage on
Hey, hippie.
Fox and Friends, Squawk, on Maria Bartiromo's show, but
He thought that was surprising that Maria covered it. Okay.
both CNN and MSNBC went with those talking points. So I'm not going to address those. It's like here's the problem I have with and I'm giving you an answer. See, because here's my problem with the fake news. Okay, what we've got now is
Okay, so I'm sure everyone has seen it by now, but the audience yesterday, about 1,000 to 1,500 people. I don't think it got to 1,500 people because there's footage of people taking chairs away. They didn't even get, at the acceptance speech, they didn't get as many people as they thought they were going to get. Guess it's better to be over-prepared. Anyway, these chairs weren't social distance. Everybody was right next to each other. Very, very few masks in the entire crowd. So the question is, what the hell? The rest of America is living this reality. The rest of the planet is living this for reality. And you guys just sit there in the garden with nothing. So he won't address that.
It's really, I think it's troubling. If I may finish.
Will you answer the question?
Ask me a question. I'm going to answer it my way. Okay.
My way.
I've been around a long time.
As have I.
Thank the Lord.
As have I.
And what I've seen in Russia.
Breaking, Kelly O'Donnell, also old. I love Kelly O'Donnell, don't get me wrong.
Is Pravda, which is their propaganda organ, which spreads the lies of Russia. What I've seen in communist China is things like the Global Times and the People's Daily, which spreads the lies. I never thought that this country would fracture into news outlets which would eventually be talking points for political parties. And my answer to you, look, here's what's going to happen. It's like you're going to hector me like this, and then you're going to try to get
Yeah, stop hectoring him.
a headline out of this. I'm telling you that MSNBC and CNN and NBC and CBS and 60 Minutes, they need to go to the mountaintop and decide whether they want to go back and cover the news like Walter Cronkite used to do, or whether they...
Yeah, stop hectoring him like Walter Cronkite.
want to be talking points for the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. So I'm going to leave it at that since I don't like arguing with folks. I'm here to give you policy perspectives. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, you said it's your desire to...
I hate this house. I hate this house. I just got to have that queued up at all times. See if I do. There you go. Come on, computer. All right, I need 3 computers. It's gone. Where? Here it is.
To me, I have 2 questions, Mr. President.
Next, please.
But you called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on
Sorry, I just
the
wanted
young
to,
lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague finish.
Okay.
But can I ask you a
Ladies and
question?
gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate
But
it.
you called
Thank you
on-
very much.
Where are you going?
I gotta trim that down. Yeah, so there's Mr. Navarro for you today, or Ron Vara. Thanks for that, David. David made a good point. Uh-oh. Hold on a second. I better go back and see what that was. That makes this a special day. He's apparently unaware that America's newspapers started out as organs for political parties. That's why a number of them still have Republican or Democrat in their names. I didn't know that. I did not know that. Kind of buried the lead there. So what do we got going on today here? So there's the national... So this is the 57th anniversary of the March on Washington. And we're just going to keep doing it every year. Marches do not work on Trump. Reality doesn't work on Trump. Here's the thing. We got to all stop with the violence. Never thought I'd have to say that, because I'm a big fan of violence, typically, you know. It's the protesters are helping Trump win right now. If Trump squeaks into office again, it will be because of the protesters that are giving... They're peaceful. That's great. The trouble is giving cover to the rioters. And that may just scare enough people to decide they'd better vote for Trump instead of Joe Biden, the sleepy destroyer of America. Joe Biden. You know, the guy who rides a bike, now with a helmet. Destroyer of America. Ron Paul was allegedly attacked yesterday, so I can find that. Let's see what else is coming up here. So Trump is going to be speaking in New Hampshire at 6 p.m., so that's 3 p.m. real time. We might cover that. Let's go find some faux news here. Let's go find some fucks and friends. Why? Why do I have to sign in? What am I even on here? Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Hold on. Okay. Let's see who's covering what. NBC has a Cheerios commercial. That sounds interesting. Let's go back to the library. And... recordings. There it is, Fox and Friends. They'll have it. Okay. The persecution of Rand Paul coming up in 3, 2...
Not right now. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Oh, it'll be the lead story.
Up to them. But I, as your president...
Father,
How safe do you feel?
Yeah, just in case you guys missed it. That's the crowd.
president in the first place, and you are the reason he is going to keep fighting for 4 more years.
One mask in the front row. Otherwise, no. And look how close they are to each other. And that's not a camera trick. The chairs were right next to each other.
The president spoke for 70 minutes yesterday, but the line...
Time before, have voters faced a clearer choice between 2 parties, 2 visions, 2 philosophies, or 2 agendas? This election will decide whether we save the American dream or whether we allow a socialist agenda to demolish our cherished destiny. This election will
see if we can find Rand.
Versus the Democrats and what they had. The Democrats spent 4 days.
Maybe we've already passed it. Maybe it happened right at the very beginning. Let's find out. What's the headline they're holding up here? This is going to be good.
Was less than half that length. Griff Jenkins has been there during both the conventions and joins us with the highlights of the finale to last night's big show on the South Lawn.
Griff, boy, it sure was. Steve Ainsley and Brian in an organized march marking the anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s March on Washington. Brian, Ainsley, Steve.
Okay, thank you so much, Griff. Yeah, you mentioned Rand Paul. Rand Paul was walking away from the White House and with his wife, and he had to be surrounded. Look at this. Officers had to surround them in a box.
Well, and see that police officer right there in the front? He's holding a bicycle up so that he can protect Rand Paul, but somebody pushes into the cop and into the bicycle, and next thing you know, the cop...
That's good tactics, though. The bicycle cops in Seattle are pretty impressive.
Look at his wife right there. I'm sure they're...
So he's not supposed to hold the bicycle up? You, like, stamp the bike down. That's what they do in Seattle. And there's something about a bike being slammed on the ground right in front of you that you're just like, whoa. It just becomes a level of threat as opposed to just a physical barrier that you can push on. Ruth Ann says this is a video of Rudy wiping his forehead and touching the lady sitting next to him last night. Oh, yeah. Wipes his forehead. Oh!
Terrified. This is what it's amounting to. Our politicians are getting bombarded by protesters, and he actually feared for his life because he tweeted out, "Thank you to the officers for saving my life." Literally.
I see a whole bunch of protesters with cameras. We don't know what happened right before this, and I'm surprised Fox is even airing this. There's got to be footage. Look at all those cell phones. There's got to be footage of exactly what happened. It's out there. If somebody knows where it is, let me know.
He's saving my life.
Yeah, hippie chick Rand Paul was advised not to walk, and he chose to. Well, that's his right. He can walk.
Going to be on our show at 8:15, Brian, this morning. We'll talk to him about it.
Yeah, think about this. Rand Paul gets attacked by his neighbor and can't even walk down the street at work. Unbelievable.
No, broken ribs.
Yeah, meanwhile, the president spoke for 70 minutes yesterday, but the lineup prior to that, if you're looking for big celebrities that are starring in sitcoms, look for another convention. Instead, you get people that were...
It turned into things like...
Here's Kevin McCarthy. He'll say stupid things. He's the worst Kevin. $8:15 would be 5:15 our time. So we'll see. Is anybody interested in hearing Rand's version of it? We can look for the snowflake, but let's listen to Kevin for a second here.
They wanted to fund the police. But tell me, what are you going to do for the average American to make this place better?
So people should understand what's at stake. If
He's a Democrat, but he's voting for Donald Trump. There were others that said the same thing. Listen to this.
Liberalism has changed, and I don't fit there anymore. I'm a Democrat. My parents are Democrats. I was a huge Obama supporter.
In the 2016 primary, I voted for Bernie Sanders.
I mean, I was a socialist.
It feels like Democrats sort of get people hooked on this drug of free money, where they basically say, you know, if you want your fix, you have to keep voting for us.
His entire campaign, Works for All Americans, that was a turning point for me. I want people to hear my story and know that you can actually go from being a Democratic socialist to a Trump supporter. I hope that Trump wins and that we can continue with the progress that he's made and the policies that he's put into place.
More kids in cages.
Was a socialist. Now she's voting for President Trump. Why do you think this is happening?
Because the president personally touched him. The thing different with the president...
That sounds like a threat to me.
...is he puts America first. He doesn't put the party. And to be able to move those many people, if you spent a few days watching this convention, I know you had every emotion, from a cheering to a crying, to the empathy, to the empowerment of this country. And that's just such a great contrast to the Democrats. I felt emptiness when I left there. I knew they hated the president. I knew they want to raise taxes. I know they wanted to fund the police. But tell me, what are you going to do for the average American to make this place better?
So people should understand what's...
Well, get rid of Trump. I think that's a big one right there.
Stake. If the Democrats win the White House, they're most likely going to win the Senate. That means they're going to blow up the filibuster. So whatever Joe Biden wants and Bernie Sanders wants, that's what the country is going to get, because nothing will be there to stop them. If you got.
Did Kilmeade say they're most likely going to win the Senate?
Country, and that's just such a great contrast.
White House, they're most likely going to win the Senate.
Left there. I knew they hated the president. I knew they want to raise taxes. I know they want to defund the police. But tell me, what are you going to do for the average American to make this place better?
So people should understand what's at stake. If the Democrats win the White House, they're most likely going to win the Senate. That means they're going to blow up the.
He's kind of slurring through his words today, but wow. They are really going hard in on the scare tactics. Plus, remember. Okay, I can't say 6 months ago now because it was 8 years. But just think back to late last year, or even during the impeachment hearings, where it's like, yeah, the Republican senators are voting against the impeachment conviction, but you know what? They're going to keep the Senate. It's in stone. Nothing's ever going to change. And now it looks like the DNC actually has a chance of taking the Senate, which is mind-blowing, considering where we were 8.5 years ago. Or January.
So whatever Joe Biden wants and Bernie Sanders wants, that's what the
Bernie Sanders gets. Dun, dun, dun. And little man, little Bernie wants you. Dun, 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 dun. That's a show tune.
Country's going to get, because nothing will be there to stop them if you guys can't find a way to win the House. And then you look at places like Washington, D.C., and you realize that's going to become a state, because that's what they'll want. Meanwhile, if you understand some of the anger in Washington, D.C. towards Republicans.
Honestly, it's about time that Washington, D.C. got some sort of representation. They don't have a senator. They don't have 2 senators.
Evidently, all you had to do was watch the exit ramps from last night's event. Because
Puerto Rico. Be nice if Puerto Rico was a state, if Kimberly Guilfoyle considered them part of the states.
Because waiting for them was angry crowds. Rand Paul.
Good catch, Ruth Ann. Yes, that is whatever Lola wants from damn Yankees.
Felt as though if the cops weren't there, him and his wife might not have survived. And then if I'm looking at.
Might not have survived. Why? Was one of the Proud Boys there? Like, was there a 17-year-old with a long gun shooting people?
Ari Fleischer's feed on Twitter, and you could see people just walking out from the event were being screamed at, expletives thrown their way, just because they went to the White House to support the.
Yeah, God forbid that the people of D.C. have representation at random.
President. Describe, Kevin McCarthy, the level of anger in Washington towards the right.
Well, it's not just in Washington. I mean, if you don't have to watch these conventions to understand what this country would look like. Go to Portland, go to Chicago, go to New York.
Who's president right now anyway? Is that whose country is it right now?
That is what this country will, because those are all run by Democrats. They're allowing this to go forward. For individuals to be out there to harass another individual simply because they came to the White House, but they're not harassing, they're almost to the point of violence. And you don't even have to wait to a speech.
Not harassing, but almost to the point of violence. Still harass, but yeah.
In the White House. You can just go to a restaurant in Washington, D.C. and
you can go to a restaurant somewhere?
And you're going to get intimidated. You're going to get harassed.
You've never seen this before?
You have to do what they want to be able to
Kevin,
survive.
you have not seen this before?
Seen what?
I've seen it many times.
No, but have you seen it before President Trump took the White House? Have you seen this level of anger?
No, and the sadness is what I watched the day after he was inaugurated. I remember driving from the hotel, what the streets were filled with. It started from day one to never give him an opportunity, which is so sad, because the history of this country, regardless of who wins the White House, there's usually a honeymoon. This poor man has never had that moment to govern. But in all that, he has never stopped fighting.
He didn't even have a chance to call Putin and get his instructions.
All that, think about what he's been able to achieve. The tax cuts, putting more people to work, bringing jobs back from overseas, raising everybody up, regardless of color of skin.
2.8% GDP growth averaged over the 3-year term. And now Negative 33% GDP. Because you know what? We have to stop pretending that the China virus doesn't exist. And yes, I use that intentionally.
Our gender. Think about how much more we could do if this president. Think about what he's been able to achieve. The tax cuts, putting more people to work, bringing jobs back from overseas, raising everybody up, regardless of color of skin or gender. Think about how much more we could do if this president had a Congress and a Senate that would work for them. That's why we could actually.
He did. Literally, for the first 2 years, you guys had the House, the Senate, and the executive branch, and you didn't do anything. You couldn't even. Oh, huge news, everybody! Hold on, what's the date? 3 days until we get tremendous, phenomenal health care. Woo! I cannot wait.
Hire Nancy Pelosi if people would go to takethehouse.com, because it's more than just the presidency. This is.
I remember when Obama was in office and Mitch McConnell declared right at the very beginning that the Republicans were going to be the party of hell yes.
The nation and the next century. Is it going to be Bernie Sanders is a registered socialist. So either we're going to go forward in prosperity or we're going to go back.
Is he though? Is that a thing? Can you register as a socialist?
Backwards in poverty. We're either going to go forward in freedom or backward in socialism. It's a very clear choice.
Well, you would like Nancy Pelosi to be retired because then you'd probably take over, but that's a different story for another time. One of the things that has been made clear over the last 4 nights of the RNC is we're talking about something that nobody talked about last week, and that was the lawlessness, the chaos in America's streets. You know, it started with the killing of George Floyd, and there were protests. But then, unfortunately, it turned into things like looting and vandalism and all sorts of arson and stuff like that. Joe Biden, who did not mention it last week, but has since, he suggested yesterday that the president is actually rooting for more violence. He said, Joe did, he's pouring gasoline on the fire. But finally, this week, he said, twice this week, he said, I condemn the violence in any form, whether it's looting or whatever it is.
And he'd said that previously as well.
Why is he talking about it this week and not last week when they had the big stage?
There's 2 things he did not talk about in his speech. He did not talk about what was going on in this country right then, day in and day out in Portland. He would not talk about the unrest in America because he supported it. You know, 13 people on his campaign actually gave money to bail people out who were looting and beating people up.
All right, let's find
so he must
Rand.
support
Here's
that.
Rand.
He has actually said he would defund the police. He says, I didn't use the word. No, he wants to reallocate the money. That's defunding the police.
He was open to discussions, by the way. Not that he wants to reallocate the money, but yeah, create different different venues, add money to the police force, increase health, well-being, safety equipment, etc. But anyway, you guys know that. So here's Rand Paul. We'll go back yesterday as well. I don't know whether I'll stay with you guys or not, but we'll go back. We'll take a look at what Kellyanne Conway said yesterday about the violence and how it's good for the party.
You can tell that man behind the mask is Rand Paul. A bunch of protesters descending on the Kentucky senator and his wife Kelly as they left the president's RNC speech from the White House. Actually, it was a longer trip than that. He joins us right now for his first live interview since that confrontation. Senator, good morning. That looks scary.
Yeah, you know, my wife and I, it was horrific. You know, we had 2 women with us who were friends of ours. We had looked out, you know, we came out of the speech
at the White House.
We looked into the street. Our hotel was only right across the street from the White House, but we couldn't go because the mob was already chasing people down that chose to go out that exit. So the Secret Service says, get on a bus and ride to.
I know. Did they purposely tussle his hair this morning so that it would look like he's been accosted?
The Trump.
It's in worse shape here than it is in the video from last night.
hotel. So we got on a bus. It took 45 minutes to get through all the mobs. We get there safely, and then we say we'll get an Uber to go all the way back where we came from, and we wanted to be dropped off at the hotel. But as we got close to it, the streets were blocked, and no one would let us through. And what happened is there was 2 blocks, and I regret that I made this decision, but I said we're going to walk the 2 blocks. We walked 1 block. But as we walked 1 block, we could see some police in the distance, but we also saw a mob of about 30 people marching and yelling. They all of a sudden saw me right as we got to the policeman, fortunately, or I don't think we'd have survived. We got to the policeman.
Because why? They were brandishing weapons of some kind? They had guns on them? Second Amendment?
And the policeman, I don't think, recognized me. And as they came closer, they were shouting my name, and the crowd doubled to 60. And then it doubled again to 120. And as they were...
Sounds like a COVID party. That's how exponential growth works. He's getting it.
Surrounding us, and it got closer and closer, and everybody kept pushing.
If I was in the mob, I'd be like, stay back. He might still be contagious. This is the guy who got COVID and then took a swim in the Senate pool and had lunch with his buddies.
Pushing back, the policemen were forming a barricade with their bodies. I whispered to the policemen, they know who I am. You've got to get reinforcements. It's going to get worse.
He whispered to them, they know who I am. You've got to get reinforcements. It's going to get worse. I believe it. Why would you not whisper in a mob?
He called for reinforcements, but we didn't get any reinforcements. We waited, but the crowd was getting bigger and bigger and pushing in. They were yelling threats. They were trying to push the police over to get to me. They were grabbing at us. And it got worse and worse and worse. And then finally we decided to make a move. I said, we've got to move. If there's not going to be reinforcements, we have to try to get to the hotel, which was another block. And they were shouting threats, to us, to kill us, to hurt us. But they're also shouting, say her name, Breonna Taylor. And it's like you couldn't read.
Is it Breonna or is it Brianna? I don't even know, and I feel terrible about that, I guess. But is it Breonna? I think it is Breonna, isn't it?
With this mob, but I'm actually the author of the Breonna Taylor law to end no-knock raids. So the irony is lost on these idiots that they're trying to
that's actually true.
Kill the person who's actually trying to get rid of no-knock raids. And they were shouting and screaming and just, these people were unhinged. But I can't tell you how, I'm not sure we would have made it. So as we're walking, sort of surrounded by the police.
Is that his wife that he shoves behind himself? I really hope not.
They're attempting to push the police.
Is it Brianna or Breonna? Because he said Breonna twice.
Police over to get to me. So at one point,
not that how things are spelled makes any difference anymore.
They push a policeman backwards. He stumbles, and he's trying to catch his balance, and I catch the back of his flak jacket to stabilize him, and make sure that he's okay because he's our defense. I mean, if he's down, the mob's loose on us. And you've seen the pictures of what they do to you. If the police are not there, if you defund the police, if we become Portland, if America becomes...
He was so threatened that he's holding his wife, and then he just kind of lets her fall behind. Just kind of like, I'm going to whisper something to the cop. I like your badge. Just lets her fall behind. He was fearing for their lives. Honey, get back there. Here. No, I'm protecting you. I'm protecting you. There you are. I'll protect you back there. The irony of him, I don't know at this point whether he's pronouncing it incorrectly or correctly, but say her name, Breonna Taylor, if that's not correct.
Portland, what's going to happen is people are going to be pummeled and kicked in the head and left senseless on the curb.
Or shot by a 17-year-old with an AR-15 style weapon.
That would have happened to us. I promise you, had we not had the D.C. police to support us, I mean, we are thankful that we have police, and we've got to wake up. We can't have the whole country. We can't have Joe Biden rule the country and have no police. I mean, we can't walk down the street.
This is Trump's America. This is happening a half mile from where Trump lives.
D.C. safely now. That's how bad it is.
I saw one police officer was actually using his bicycle.
Okay, so it is pronounced Breonna. Okay, thank you, Kentucky.
To try to keep the crowd back. He fell into you. You almost stumbled and fell down. You and your wife are both okay, right?
We are.
Well, my hair's tousled.
We were unharmed, but, you know, it's still going on this morning. There's still mobs in the street blocking the streets. And I know it sounds like over the top to say that people are from out of town, but I think we're going to find out that...
I'm making fun of him, but the positioning there with his wife, I think it's just fine. That he's keeping a hand on her. He's trying to support the cop. He actually does a pretty good job with this. Speaking as a guy, that's sexist, I know, but he's like he was leading the way once he got his wife behind her. I'm making fun of it, but it's I'm sure they were petrified in the moment, and he appears to handle this well. I mean, it's not like he was riding a mower or anything, but
these people are hired and from out of town. Specifically in our case, I believe there are going to be people who were involved with the attack on us that actually were
attack on them.
We're paid to come here, are not from Washington, D.C.
It's Soros. David, can you get on the phone to George and just make sure that he's behind this?
And are sort of paid.
Oh, what time is it? You usually have a meeting with him at 11 a.m. So, yeah, if you could just get him in on the Zoom meeting and ask him if specifically he paid people to be there to hurt Rand Paul.
To be anarchist.
Yeah.
This is disturbing because really if you're inciting a riot, that's a crime. But if you're paying someone to incite a riot, that person needs...
Okay, so there's multiple cameras in behind them, real cameras on tripods. So there's a lot more video of this incident.
To go to jail as well. But we can't live this way. It's getting worse and worse.
I can't think of anything more important than this, David, right now. Rand Paul's well-being. Rand Paul's well-being.
You know, I like being...
Look at that hair, David. Is that not enough of a reason? For the love of God, try and be a human for 5 seconds.
Being free to be able to walk out and go for a walk in the park. We cannot go outside now. It's become so dangerous for us. And I don't hear Joe Biden or Kamala Harris saying one thing about the violence. Yeah. This mob is their vote.
Honestly, though, bad things happen when Rand goes outside. So I get it. I'm kind of with him on this.
Voters.
I can't even mow my own lawn.
This is the new Democrat Party, and if we don't resist this, the United States is going to become Portland. We're going to become Chicago. All of these failed cities Democrats have run.
Oh, hold on. Let's see. Pronunciation. So Olex gave us pronunciation here. Give me a second. So this is downtown Louisville, and it looks like a parade. And it sounds like they're saying Breonna, but the name in this video is spelled Breonna. There's no way to find out. I've kind of moved beyond caring.
That's how you spell Breonna.
What?
That's how you spell Breonna.
Yeah, I know. How do you say it? Breonna. Okay, so Kevin Lee Daughter saying Breonna.
That's spelled right.
So there you have it.
The president said it in his speech. If we allow them to take over the White House, we are going...
So I don't think it's Breonna.
...going to become...
It is spelled Breonna, but I don't know that Rand Paul's ever heard it pronounced. So could be on him. I don't know.
Portland, the country will be on fire. We have to have law and order, and we have to support the police. Right. You know, I can't say that strong enough.
Senator, some of the papers today are reporting that what was being yelled at you was, as you said, say her name, Breonna Taylor.
Okay, he's saying Breonna.
You said there were obscenities. I would not like you to repeat those, but you said there were.
I would.
Were threats. Tell us what the threats were.
Well, the threats were to F you up, to kill you. The threats were if they could get hold of you, and I truly believe this with every fiber of my being, had they gotten at us, they would have gotten us to the ground. We might not have been killed. We might just have been injured by being kicked in the head or kicked in the stomach until we were senseless.
Oddly specific for something you believe with every fiber of your being.
You've seen the pictures. Most of the networks will not show the pictures of this. This is happening in all of our cities. It's got to stop. And thank God for the...
What networks are not showing the pictures of this? This was like the lead story on MSNBC. It was on Morning Joe. I was listening to it. I don't know if they were showing the pictures or not because I was still sleeping, but that's my day. That's how I start my day. I turn on Morning Joe and listen to Morning Joe so I can go back to sleep.
Police, had we not gotten to the police, I truly believe that the police saved our life and we would not be here today, or we'd be...
Someday on Spilling Covfefe, remind me to play the video of Kevin Lee Granddad swearing for the very first time. He said the F word for the first time in his life to help me with an audition. And there's something about fucking you up with him reading, he was so flustered by saying the F word. My dad had never said the F word before. But something about saying that flustered him so badly that he could not get the line right. And I'll play that for you someday. Or maybe not.
In a hospital today had the police not been there, and I'd like to thank them if they're watching this. We thanked them last night, but it was still a melee. They were still trying to get people away from us. Even in the hotel, people were following us into the hotel.
Well, let me ask you this as an exit question. Given the fact that you said that these people are still on the streets, protesters are still on the streets, and we heard from Griff Jenkins about a half an hour ago that apparently a number of the businesses in Washington, D.C. are boarded up because they're worried about trouble going forward. Does a prominent Republican like yourself, somebody who is very recognizable, need to have security to simply walk on the streets of Washington, D.C. or major cities in America?
In Trump's America.
Probably yes, from now on. I don't feel it at home. At home, people are so friendly. I can go to the grocery store, and I want to live, the life of a normal person where I go to the grocery store and buy groceries or stop at the Minute Mart. And at home, I do feel that. But this also isn't normal. There's something going on here. This is like the FBI needs to be involved.
What do you
mean
something's going on? Senator, what do you mean something's going on? You've got a feeling. Tell us what you think.
So somehow George Soros specifically targeted Rand Paul, knowing that he would get on a bus for 45 minutes, go somewhere else for some reason, then get in an Uber, be forced to get out of the Uber. God damn, that George Soros is a genius. Hi, Barb.
My feeling is that there is interstate criminal traffic being paid for
by the Soros Biden campaign. Hi, Dee. Good to see you.
Across state lines, but you won't know it unless you arrest them. Otherwise, you just think, oh, these are some normal hoodlums from a big city.
Hoodlums?
I promise you that at least some of the members and the people who attacked us were not from D.C. They flew here on a plane. They've all got fresh new clothes, and they were paid to be here.
Because they're wearing fresh new clothes? So you must be a paid protester if you do your laundry? Maybe they just ransacked and looted the clothes. We don't know. But he knows.
It's a crime to do that, and it needs to be traced.
Who are these hoodlums?
The FBI needs to investigate, but the only way you can do it is you have to arrest people. And usually we say, oh, well, you didn't get hurt, so we're not going to arrest them. They were inciting a riot, and they would have killed us had the police not been there.
Because they were wearing fresh clothing. Some of them smelled like Downy. Like fabric softener is a step beyond right there.
They all need to be arrested, and I'm not saying forever, but they need to be arrested, questioned. They need to say, where are you staying?
This is the libertarian saying that everyone needs to be questioned. Regardless of a violation or probable cause, everybody needs to be arrested and questioned. That's the libertarian. The libertarian is saying, the guy who apparently is writing a no-knock ban for the police wants everyone arrested and questioned and then released. But everyone should be arrested and questioned. That's the libertarian. Not in my backyard. Wow. Tofu, serious question. Why are they so obsessed with Soros and Bill Gates, etc.? I see some pretty cringe conspiracy they spreading, but do they actually have a legitimate gripe? I'm just going to leave that to David. For those of you who don't know, David Mickelson founded Snopes.com, the ultimate fact-checking site on the. Have you ever figured out? And of course, the rumor being that George Soros funds Snopes, that it's his organization, which is, I mean, if true, David, you've been hiding it from me. So Has anyone figured out why? Why specifically Soros? Well, he's a billionaire. He's a Jewish billionaire. So there's that. There's the normal, the anti-Yosemite prevalence on the right side. Honestly, on the fringe left as well. But yeah.
And
I don't know what the good answer to that is, apart from the fact that George Soros is a very, very rich Jewish guy.
Bills need to be subpoenaed by a judge to say who paid for your bill, how did you get here on a plane and staying in a fancy hotel, and yet you're acting like a criminal.
And well, criminal by protesting, you know, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, those sorts of things. What would be the probable cause on that, Rand Paul? What would be the probable cause on arresting people and asking who paid for your hotel?
Something's going on here, and it's much bigger than people think. But the bottom line is we can't let the United States become Portland, and that's what my fear is, that the United States is going to be on fire if we have no police. And look, I've been for reform. I've authored 22 criminal justice reforms. They were yelling at me, we're not going to let you go alive unless you'll say out loud you're for criminal justice reform. And I'm like,
yeah, there it is right there. David Mickelson's response. Immensely rich people who use their money to influence global politics are evil. You know, like the Koch brothers.
You idiot. You are so dense that you have no idea that I've been a leading advocate for criminal justice reform with President Obama.
He's a leading advocate for criminal justice reform, but he wants everyone arrested and then questioned about who paid their hotel bill. He's nothing if not consistently inconsistent.
President Trump, and you're going to try to kill...
Okay, Ruth Ann, look at their clothing. Look at how cleanly pressed it is. This guy here, he's wearing a watch. Open your eyes, sheeple.
Kill me, and I've been trying to help the problems. And so this is what's sad, but it's such lawlessness. If we have this kind of lawlessness, I would say people are going to get killed. People have been killed. You know,
this lawlessness, this protesting on the street, literally the very First Amendment. You know, the law of the land.
The former police chief, his story was, so sorrowful to listen to his wife last night that was killed in St. Louis. Yeah. You know, the little girl, Sequoia Turner, 8 years old, was shot in the middle of the day in Atlanta because they took a wrong turn. But the police, they had let the mob take over a street corner armed. We can't let our cities be taken over by these marauders and thugs.
Okay, so now we're anti-Second Amendment? Is that what we're saying?
Well, we are glad you are safe, you and your wife, Kelly, and we thank you very much for coming on to tell us your story. Let's see what happens next. Let's see if there is some sort of an investigation or if it just disappears, as he did right there. All right, Senators, thank you. All right, exactly 8:30. That's why the satellite got clipped right there. Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani blasted Democrat leaders. Man,
they still have to do that. They still have to buy time on the satellites. I didn't even realize that was a thing. Wow. I would have thought by now that the big networks had their own unlimited satellite time, but no. Wow, that's really interesting. I didn't realize when I worked in television 1,000 years ago, that was a very serious thing. You had a satellite window, and that was that. And, like, why is it still coming in over a satellite feed? We have the internet. I mean, like, literally, I'm sitting here talking to you, and you can see me unlimited amount of time, and it's free. Wow. But they haven't figured that out yet. Oh, there's the judge, but I want to go back and see. We'll just listen to the judge for a second here. Turn your volume down. That's pretty. Hold on. That's a screenshot if there ever was one. There we go.
And bringing crime down in New York City when everybody thought the city was gone. Look, Rudy Giuliani understands what's going on with the Democrats and with the socialist agenda, and that is that it is anti-police and it's pro-criminal. And it's not just Democrats ordering police to stand down. It's prosecutors who are being funded by certain organizations where they then come down and they say, look, we're not even going to prosecute you. We're not going to prosecute these looters. They have a right to peacefully protest, but if you can give us some evidence on the police, we'll turn around and prosecute them for violence. But Rudy Giuliani is the most...
Yeah, I just can't with her. I'm not even listening. Like, my brain has already tuned it out. Let's go find Kellyanne from yesterday. You don't have to. You're welcome to get on with your day if you want. Let's see here. What am I looking at? Yesterday, was it? Was it Fox and Friends yesterday that she was on, where she said it? We can figure it out. Might have been on America's Newsroom, but let's find out. Oh, that's today. We just watched that. Hold on. Dummy.
Most credible person to talk about the fact.
No, thank you. Go to yesterday, Kevin. Here we go.
Everyone, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Should be somewhere in here usually. Probably here.
Outside of the room, we can feel pain, according to nonpartisan scientists. America, Brian. Local officials give.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of tornado. High when you listen to those reports and you see potential for flooding, rainfall.
Good morning, Ainsley. Hi.
Good morning. Hi.
Okay, the fact that I can kind of guesstimate where Kellyanne will appear in the Fox and Friends schedule. I need a hobby, kids. Actually, I have a bunch of hobbies, most of which I can't do right now because of the COVIDs.
You listen to those reports and you see all the damage. What's the federal response going to be?
Well, a number of things. First of all, FEMA has been stockpiling tarps and food and water and all the supplies you need for what has been anticipated to be a more aggressive than normal hurricane season. And Administrator Pete Gaynor at FEMA and his team are on top of this. We've worked hand in glove with him and his team on the coronavirus task force response as well. And he this morning is also warning people to please stay inside. That's how you stay safe. There could be downed power lines.
So Kellyanne's daughter is now all over the TikTok accusing her mom and dad of abuse. So both physical and mental.
Lines in the water. Until your local officials give you the all clear, which is no time soon, you've got to stay where you are. Also, this is gone from a Cat 4 to a Cat 2, as you've said, but it's still seen as a very dangerous storm. Could be a historic storm. And folks need to really take those precautions. But the federal government is ready. I discussed this last night with Chief Meadows and the president himself. We know that they're on top of it and speaking to the officials locally and across the administration.
Big story is going to be urban unrest. Whether it's a situation in Portland, 80-plus days, it's in Seattle, it's in Chicago, almost on a daily basis, and now it's fast forward to Kenosha because of the shooting that took place last night. More unrest, and here's what Mayor Pete Buttigieg says. He says all of this chaos is happening on Donald Trump's watch. It's characteristic of living in Donald Trump's America, and I think we're all going to see more and more of it as long as he is in charge. Is this Donald Trump's fault?
No, and nobody's going to buy that. We know that these are democratically led cities and most with Democratic governors. I think all that we're talking about. Why is that important? Because the Republican president, Donald Trump, doesn't look at this as a partisan issue. He's trying to send federal reinforcements in. And you've got these governors saying, oh, no, they're putting their pride and their politics ahead of public safety. And that makes no sense to everyday Americans who want law and order, who want public safety. You saw the Gallup poll a few weeks ago that said 86% of Americans want the same or increased police presence in their neighborhoods, in their areas, and that included over 80% of African Americans and Hispanic Americans in that Gallup poll. So they've made very clear. Also, it'd be great, it was really nice that Joe Biden weighed in long after the violence, not just in urban America, Brian, but suburban America. Kenosha, Wisconsin took hold. It was nice that he weighed in, and maybe he should even go there and see on the ground so he and Mayor Pete can see what's really happening. It's not Donald Trump's watch. He's trying to get law and order restored. But I don't think Joe Biden will go to Wisconsin because the last time the Democratic...
It is Donald Trump's watch. Donald Trump is president right now. If their argument is if you make someone else president, things will get really bad, then obviously the president must have some sort of control over this. You can't make one case without the other.
Nominee for president went to Wisconsin was 2012. He's ignoring the state the way Hillary ignored the state politically and practically speaking, they're all ignoring the fact that Kenosha is on fire. Look, let's quote the mother of Jacob Blake. Just like the family of George Floyd, the family of Rayshard Brooks and others, they've said, please protest peacefully. She said very clearly, stop using my son or anybody's child in the name of your protest. We're so far beyond peaceful protest. Right. And this is why the president and the vice president last night are making a strong case for public safety. And this could come to your own neighborhood, obviously. You know, I feel so sorry, and I touched upon this last night. I was thinking of a very specific small business woman. She got her store ready all over again for the post-COVID lockdown lifting, and then had to do it all over again after she was vandalized and looted.
She leaves at the end of the month.
And this just can't stand. I also noticed there was a quote today from a restaurateur in Wisconsin saying, are you protesters trying to get Donald Trump reelected? He knows, full stop. And I guess,
like I've been saying, this is just playing into Donald Trump's hands.
Mayor Pete knows, full stop, that the more chaos and anarchy and vandalism and violence reigns, the better it is for the very clear choice on who's best on public safety and law and order. I was in Fort McHenry last night when Vice President Pence gave his impassioned plea, and one of his biggest applause lines in that audience, standing ovation, is when he talks about the thin blue line. He talks about how we would never defund the police. We have more generously resourced and more deeply respected our military veterans, our police, our border protection, and other law enforcement officers, keeping us safe.
Indeed. Of course, it was just 4 years ago. Kellyanne, you made history, the first woman to successfully manage a presidential campaign. And you did touch on this last night in your speech before the RNC. Here's a snippet.
President Trump and Vice President Pence have lifted Americans, provided them with dignity, opportunity, and results. President Trump helped me shatter a barrier in the world of politics by empowering me to manage his campaign to its successful conclusion. This is the man I know and the president we need for 4 more years.
Yeah, shut up. Let's see. Ted Cruz retweeted something last night. Looks like it's footage. Let's see if I can drag it over here so you guys can see. I just wanted to see what this is all about. And the caption is Joe Biden's America. This is Joe Biden's America because, you know, Joe Biden being the president and all. Let's watch. It's probably going to be people being yelled at leaving the speech is what I'm guessing this is. Look at all that violence. I like that the protesters were yelling through their masks. Yeah, that's the First Amendment at its best right there. But yeah, Joe Biden's America. That's what that is. Because, you know, President Joe Biden and all.
Picks the toughest fights and tackles the most complex problems. He has...
Oh my God, shut up.
Before you take off, as...
Did she say that the violence is a good thing for the president yet? I kind of tuned out there.
Was detailed earlier because there's going to be less drama, more mama at your house. Is it going to drive you crazy that you are not going to
Oh, there's plenty of drama at her house right now.
Be there in these last 67 days?
No, if that were the case, I would reassess. But the fact is, no, I'm making the best decision for my family. But also, I told the president on Sunday night and again last night in my probably final trip on Marine One with the president and the First Lady to Fort McHenry to watch the Vice President's speech that he's so well positioned in this White House and in this campaign to run through the tape and be reelected. And that's wonderful because I told him the next 2 months you focus on winning, and I'm going to focus on investing in leisure wear and hovering over my kids as they hover over their computers to learn from home, which is the fate of millions of school children nationwide, but he's very well positioned. I think it really turned around about 5 or 6 weeks ago when he did a couple big things. He tweeted out that he's wearing a mask, you wear a mask. He's resumed the coronavirus task force briefings so that they're brief, they're technical in nature. It's not confrontation with the press, it's information to the public. And then also he pulled down his live convention and his in-person.
It's not confrontation with the press. Because, you know, the press.
Rallies for now, basically recognizing that just like the rest of the country, they can't go to bars and restaurants necessarily. They're places of work, places of worship, places of learning. So he's locking arms with them. But it's also that we've seen what the other side has to offer. And President Trump has this. I predict a week from now, Trump-Pence will be way up in the polls in many of these swing states, in the credible polls, and the other side will not know how to adjust. They'll double down on the rhetoric you heard last week. You know what I didn't hear last week? A woman's right to choose, because the left is in this abortion contortion. That was one of the most popular phrases in past conventions, all of which I've attended.
Abortion contortion?
And been a commentator on. And it's just incredible because they realize they've lost that issue culturally.
Okay, I don't know if it was one of the most popular phrases in all the past conventions. I've never heard it in my life, literally. I don't know how popular that is.
That they are now defending a platform and a party that is for abortion, the 8th, 9th, month 9th, sex selection purposes, long after a baby is viable outside of the womb or can feel pain, according to nonpartisan science.
Is this one of those, there are speech points or something? Speech checks? What was the phrase they were using last night?
They also never mentioned school choice last week. One of the biggest fault lines is definitely public safety, law and order, taking on China, taking on these trade deals. But it's also who is standing up for communities in color and African American, Hispanic American kids who benefit from and rely upon these opportunity scholarships so that they have a better choice. They have choices like my children and perhaps your children. And for some reason, Joe Biden has stood in the way of that. The last 2 Democratic presidents have opposed D.C. opportunity scholarships, and he would as well. So there are so many contrasts. And I want history to show that it was Donald Trump who plucked me out of plain sight at the age of 49 to be his campaign manager. I had worked really hard for decades and had been ignored by a lot of the guys, shunted to the side, ridiculed, derided. That's okay, because a lot of them are still snarking and barking from the sidelines, the never Trumpers. But they also have another thing in common. Their candidates didn't win, and they were in charge. Maybe their candidates should.
She was working for Ted Cruz. Just FYI. I should see if I can dig that up. I probably have it somewhere. Here we go.
I should have hired a woman, or this woman. That's okay, because I'll be unleashed one day, and I'll have my say. But for the time being, I'm very grateful to have been in public service. I started at the...
Yeah, plucked her out of obscurity, standing on the sidelines. Here she is.
Breaking a law. I mean, we could just brush it off, but it shows you the danger of just saying things that aren't true and getting people to believe it and getting 20,000 people in a rally today to just lap it up as if it's true.
It's
completely transparent. Donald Trump's tax returns aren't. I'd like to see those be transparent. And people start to see that he's not, he says he's for the little guy, but he's actually built a lot of his businesses on the backs of the little guy. And he's a lot of little guys through eminent domain or through not paying contractors after you've built something. The little guys have suffered. So that the question is going to be about these Trump victims. The reason the messaging has gotten better since Alex's barn burner of an article 2 weeks ago is they're starting to talk about victims of Trump University, victims of Trump in Atlantic City. Before that, it was his conservative apostasies. Now it's actually you're for the little guy, but you've built your business on the backs of the little guy. Yeah. And insulting them as lying Ted and John Kasich, who eats like a slob, and everything else that was said today, which is fairly unpresidential, then I think he should just ignore them. I mean, if he wasn't worried about them, why not just ignore these two people he thinks aren't actual competitors? I actually think they got under...
Oh my God, that's the same dress. Ha! Okay. So yeah, she's now recycling dress because she's not getting paid by George Soros. If she was, she would have some nice new clean pressed clothing. That's what we know. So yeah, no, this is all making sense now. This is all coming together.
His skin today, but it's vulgar. And
we have our fashionista, producer Joanna is here. Check out this dress. This is from 2016. And then let's look at today. Hold on. Let's go to today. Yesterday, actually. Kellyanne Conway, the same dress.
Age of 50 on Inauguration Day, a career in public service that I'm very proud of because it's very meaningful. And I tell young people, particularly young women all the time, learn to accept the word no more than you hear it, because you will face rejection. You will face.
Learn to accept the word no more than you hear it. I'm glad I'm not one of the young women that she tells that to, because I have no idea what that means. Is that a metaphor? A simile? Like an analogy? What? Can we do that again?
Public service. I started at the age of 50 on Inauguration Day, a career in public service that I'm very proud of because it's very meaningful. And I tell young people, particularly young women all the time, learn to accept the word no more than you hear it.
Learn to accept the word no more than you hear it. It's kind of the opposite of what you usually hear from people. Hey, don't take no for an answer. Just keep, if there's a wall in front of you, get over that wall. Go around it. You know, like the president always says.
Because you will face rejection, you will face exclusion, you will face a lot of disappointment in your lives and in your careers. But don't say the word no. Be reliable. Be the one who raises her hand, steps up, stands in, speaks up, and either volunteers or contributes. But I've been very fortunate to work for a man who for decades has elevated women to senior positions in New York real estate when other people wouldn't do it, in the Trump Corporation, the Trump campaign, the Trump White House, the Trump administration. It's very natural for him. And I'm very happy that, and this has not been easy, but that my broad mind and narrow waist have not switched places. That ought to make them miserable more miserable today. But it's good.
Thanks so much for being with us.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Take
we wish
care.
you all the best.
All the best.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you to you too.
Take care.
48 minutes after the top of the hour. Still ahead.
I kind of tuned out there while I was looking for some other stuff, but I don't think that's the clip. Must have been on CNN or something yesterday, where she said the violence actually helps out the president. All right, well, it is 10:42, and now Kevin Lee daughter wants to get her day going. She wants to do some driving, so she can get her driver's license, so that I don't have to drive her back and forth, which would be nice. So we're going to do some driving. We're going to get hopefully some exercise, and we're going to get on with our day. So you guys have a good day. And Trump's supposed to speak in New Hampshire around 3 o'clock. So if I'm around, I'll cover that on the live stream. We'll see you then. Oh, and you know what I should do today is actually try and update the closing credits. Here they are.
Kevin, is this helpful to Joe Biden?
Wait, what? Wait, what?